Okay, sorry about that weird cut-off timing. Um, my girlfriend's here and she's laughing at me because I nerd. Nope, she's not gonna say anything, but you might hear her snickering in the back from time to time. So we're gonna get back into it. Prodigy of the Void just lost a lot of Reapers. Can't really afford to lose that much gas that early, as I was saying earlier before she rudely interrupted me and made my dogs angry. Yeah, she doesn't like me. So I don't know how I ended up in this deal. Only when you're here. So anyway, Prodigy of the Void has 5 Reapers, 6 Reapers now, 7 Reapers, and Flekil only has 3, but he does have a income advantage. He also is making an actual army instead of just a bunch of Reapers for harassment. Marines do okay against Reapers. In smaller numbers, the Reapers have the advantage because they deal so much DPS, but the more Marines you get, the better they are, just because they become cost-effective after a while, because Marines are only 50 minerals. But Prodigy of the Void doing huge damage to Flekil's economy. So yeah, workers killed 16 workers. Flekil is down to 4 workers. Not sure where his other workers are. Actually building supply depots, so pretty lucky that they were off building supply depots. The Marines come in to clean up the Reapers, which they do. I believe that Flekil probably had to use all of his Reapers in that engagement as well. Sorry if I missed that. But that was good. That was a good move on Prodigy of the Void's part. He now has, well, he would have had an income advantage if Flekil did not just drop all of those mules. Hold on, I have to go back. I may have missed something that happened in Flekil's base. Workers killed 6, so he may have done a counter Reaper push whenever those Reapers entered. So here come Flekil's Reapers inside the main of Prodigy of the Void. Prodigy of the Void is doing his Reaper push right now. These 3 Reapers doing some significant damage to Prodigy of the Void's economy. Almost got stopped by 1 Reaper that was persistent and probably on auto move. Prodigy of the Void notices it now and cleans that up. So we're going to speed it up now. Back to that engagement. So yeah, Marines, as I said, they're pretty effective, or pretty cost effective versus Reapers, just because they're only 50 minerals and they actually have a pretty high DPS, even though the Reaper has a very high DPS versus the Marines, because they have that light tag. So these Reapers are going to get shut down by these Marines. Prodigy of the Void wisely decides to back out there. And this bunker right here isn't really set to defend much because Prodigy of the Void is so Reaper heavy right now, so that bunker really doesn't have a point. The Reapers also do massive damage against structures. Yeah, 30 damage every 1.8 seconds is pretty huge. So needs to be bringing these Marines out of this bunker so that they can deal with the Reapers. If I were Flekil, I would probably get rid of these bunkers, or at least salvage this one. This one serves almost no purpose. This one right here does serve some purpose if Prodigy of the Void were to start getting an actual army, but so far he is making only Reapers, 2 Marines in this barracks or this bunker to stop any sort of Reaper harassment from coming inside his own base, because this cliff right here is the most likely entrance. So Prodigy of the Void continuing Reaper production, not continuing SCV production, which is bad. Decided to go for a planetary fortress up here, which is an interesting choice. I think that he thought Flekil was going to overcommit to Reapers like he did, but of course Flekil only built those 3 Reapers and then stopped after dealing some good economic damage with them. So far, Flekil is actually losing in the resources lost, which is surprising to me. But Prodigy of the Void has lost a lot more gas, which is, to me, more valuable than the minerals, because gas is collected about half the rate or 1/3 the rate, somewhere between there, of the max mineral collection. But I don't really know if that matters, because Prodigy of the Void is collecting Vespene gas at a pretty quick rate. Well, he was collecting at a pretty high rate. Now he's starting to slow down. So Flekil continuing to call down mules, continuing SCV production, continuing barracks units production, so all good stuff for Flekil. I would say he has a pretty big upper hand right now, but this is one of the games that is not a cold cast. Unfortunately, I can't exactly remember the outcome, so it is sort of a cold cast in that regard. But it looks like Flekil has a huge upper hand, and that's exactly what I wanted to see. I wanted to see games where the player who sent me the replay lost, so that I could go back and I could say, well, this is what you did wrong. You can improve your play right here. Right here, right here, and right here, and then hopefully they could improve on that aspect. So Prodigy of the Void, if I had any sort of advice to him, it would be not to put a planetary here, unless you know for a fact that he is going to be committing to Reapers as hard as he is. He has been producing almost exclusively Reapers, and Flekil has been building a pretty traditional army. So this planetary fortress isn't really going to defend him from all that much. Prodigy of the Void has also been slacking really, really badly on the SCV production. So he is way behind in the income count, and is a base behind, and has scouted that. So I'm not really sure what his entire plan is, but he seems to be really content with just doing the Reaper harassment and trying to keep him, I guess, on these 2 bases while he is only on this 1 base. So I want to check the spending tab. Prodigy of the Void has actually spent more on tech and army, but Flekil has spent more on the economy, which is sort of necessary because of all those workers he lost early on. Not that that matters, because Flekil is going to have an income lead because of those mules, and he's still building SCVs, whereas Prodigy of the Void is not. My voice is going to start cracking again, and that's really bad because this is only my first cast, and normally my voice doesn't start cracking until I'm about 6 games in, so that's pretty bad. My dogs are also fighting, so that's bad too. Flekil looks like he could go for a push right now, which unfortunately for him, he has no way of knowing, but now is a good time to push because Prodigy of the Void's income will start actually, Prodigy of the Void is building a Banshee, so probably going to continue going for a harassment style instead of going for any sort of macro. So this 1 base, really harassment oriented build is not good against what Flekil is doing. Flekil is just turtling hard, and Prodigy of the Void is not going to be able to break the turtle to the point where he crushes the army. So what he's going to be able to do is just keep poking at this mineral line and this mineral line, and he's going to do economic damage, but this giant ball of Marine Marauder is never going to actually be touched or damaged because he simply can't engage without suffering heavy losses on his own part. And if Flekil wanted to, what he would do whenever this Banshee or wherever Prodigy of the Void stopped Reaper production. So yeah, Flekil could just go in there and smash everything that Prodigy of the Void has. But Prodigy of the Void is just building Banshees like they're hot or something like that. One thing that Flekil should be doing is getting out some medevacs. Flekil is just now, actually no, he's not even building a starport yet. He is getting a factory with a tech lab on it. So that'll let him get siege tanks. There he goes, laying down the 2 starports. So yeah, he needs to get these medevacs out, and even if he decides to do drop play, drops will be able to wipe this. Well, maybe not wipe that out, but drops will do a lot of damage because medevacs are very effective against other bio without medevacs, because medevacs are good. So Flekil decides to engage here. Prodigy of the Void is going to lose that Banshee in a pretty bad micro. I guess he was just attacking and then decided to hell with that Banshee. He'll be fine, don't worry about it. And of course that Banshee was not fine. He should have been worried about it. And Flekil goes ahead and he lays down a bunch of missile turrets. At this point in the game, it is 18 minutes, and when you are a 1-base Terran going up against a 2-base Terran, you really should have lost at this point. But Prodigy of the Void is forcing Flekil to stay in his base. At this point, I really see no way that Prodigy of the Void could win this. So Prodigy of the Void, when you're watching this replay, these gimmicky plays like this, going up against someone who has an army this size, is not a good idea. You've seen the army with your Banshee that's attacking. So whenever you see an army this big, you know that you're at a huge disadvantage. You know that to get ahead, you need to take some risks, and that risk would probably be expanding right here, and then maybe double expanding to the gold or something, and hoping that the other player continues to be as passive as he is, because he has just stayed in his base. And yeah, just hope that he stays passive so that you can try to get back in the game with an economy. Because right now, Flekil is almost double the income on minerals. Pretty close with the gas income. Could be higher, but Flekil doesn't need that gas income because he's not going such a tech-heavy build. Flekil is getting out Vikings, which is a good idea versus everything that Prodigy of the Void has been getting out. Prodigy of the Void has 3 Banshees down here. Is actually building a few medevacs. So Prodigy of the Void doing something right, I would say, for once. Has all of these Marines. Getting out some medevacs is a good idea. At this point, Flekil has lost his timing window, I would say. But he does have an upgrade advantage. So a timing window is still kind of there, but it wasn't as effective because really Flekil hasn't been building too much on this army. He's been building more production structures, which I'm going to break it down a little bit more and say that he should not have been getting this many production structures. What he should have been doing was just building units out of his existing production structures, because 2 starports, this factory has not produced a single thing yet. So if you don't plan on using a factory with a tech lab, don't build the tech lab unless you're going to tech switch it with a starport or something, because it's just kind of a waste of 50-25, which doesn't sound like a lot, but that's minerals and Vespene gas that you could be using on something else. So here we're going to see a drop from Prodigy of the Void. A huge drop, actually. A drop with almost his entire army in it, so that will be... what's 4 times 8? 32. 32 Marines plus these 3 Banshees. So this will be actually a pretty strong drop. If Flekil engages in the wrong position, he could actually be in trouble. If you look at the units tab, 50 Marines to 38 Marines and 15 Marauders. Flekil should be able to hold this off. He does have an upgrade advantage, as I said. The 1-1 versus the 0-1. Prodigy of the Void actually got his own upgrade. But Flekil engages in a bad spot. He should have just lifted these buildings off. I'm not sure if Flekil is going to be able to deny this. It would be a shame if he wasn't, because he looked like he had such an advantage. And no, he is not going to be able to deny this because he is just funneling into this choke. These Marines have a huge concave, and that is the major mistake of the game. Prodigy of the Void taking a game that maybe he should not have won. This drop was a pretty good move. I think he knew how far behind he was because Flekil was on these 2 bases. But yeah, now Prodigy of the Void has all of these Marines, and Flekil has these Marines, and Prodigy of the Void also has these 4 medevacs that are going to heal any Marines that are taking damage. That siege tank not going to make it out. First thing produced by that tech lab, by the way. So yeah, just bad engaging by Flekil, and that just goes to show you that no matter how many mistakes someone makes in the early game, one massive mistake can make up for all of the past mistakes that the other player made. So it looks like Flekil making a last stand, but looked like he just moved into that ball of Marines without moving. Not that he could have stopped it anyway because of these medevacs that were healing pretty rapidly. Oh, I think the Marines were trying to snipe the medevacs, which wasn't a very good idea. But Prodigy of the Void takes that game because of a huge choke advantage that Flekil gave him. So we're going to have to speed it up because anyone who plays StarCraft and watches the replays knows that these things don't like to go to the exact timing that you need. So I'm going to have to go super fast. That's my super speed sound. So here comes the drop, and I want to go back to where the concave was, because this is a huge concave. This is a great position to be in for Prodigy of the Void, and what Flekil should have done is just highlight this army and just bring it back here. He cannot fight in that choke. Or he could have just lifted these buildings and then moved. That's an even better choice, because then you can save these buildings. But either way, you never want to fight whenever your enemy has this sort of concave and you only have units in this little choke right here. That's the same reason that Protoss players will sometimes be able to pressure ramp of a Terran player successfully, if they already have a lead, of course, with Stalkers, because The Marines and the Marauders are only firing from right here, while the Stalkers can have a huge concave ranging all the way down here, where the Marines and Marauders might only be limited to up here. Sometimes, I mean, they'll be spread out, but especially in lower levels of play, you'll just see them trying to bash their way through these, and of course they're not moving. And the Terran player doesn't want to bring them down here because then they're more exposed to Zealots and whatnot. And if you do bring them down here, they're in an even worse choke because you just can't fit that many units down there to do the DPS. And right here you see, yeah, he was focusing down that medevac. That's why the SCVs were just going to that medevac. So again, just engagement errors that Flekil made. He had a huge economic advantage. He had an army advantage. Ooh, I do like that by Prodigy of the Void. I didn't notice that, but sieging outside his base to make sure that SCVs couldn't get away if they had tried to get away. So Prodigy of the Void winning by just having some good engagements. I did like his harassment early on, but he should have expanded on the back of that harassment. He had the minerals too. So all of these things, things to consider whenever you're in your next game. Planetary Fortress, don't do that unless you know that someone is building massive amounts of Reapers. So on to the next game. I believe the next game will be a dual cast by myself and Mike. So, yep, we'll see how that goes, and I'll see you next time.